teach you about the laboratory detection of myocardial infarction. In the previous class, I talked about the myocardial infarction, different types of myocardial infarctions. So today, the laboratory detection of myocardial infarction. So how you diagnose the myocardial infarction? So diagnosis of myocardial infarction based on the measurement of intracellular macromolecules, that is the proteins that leak from the damaged myocytes into the circulation. The macromolecules or protein that leak into the circulation are the myoglobin, creatinine kinase, lactate dehydrogenase, and cardiac troponin T and I, particularly the MB, that is the heterodimers CKMB of the creatinine kinase forms are detected in the circulation. So cardiac troponin T and I. So cardiac troponin T and I is the most sensitive and specific marker of the myocardial damage, not normally detectable in circulation. Following myocardial infarction, the level of the both cardiac troponin T and I begin to rise at 2 to 4 hours and peak at 4 hours, persist for approximately 7 to 10 days after acute myocardial infarction. Now the creatinine kinase is sensitive but not specific for the myocardial infarction. So creatinine kinase is an enzyme that is present in brain, myocardium, and skeletal muscles. It is a dimer composed of two isoforms designated as M and B. The MM homodimers are found predominantly in cardiac and skeletal muscles. The BB homodimers found in the brain and lung, and the MB, that is the heterodimers, particularly found in the cardiac muscles, which lesser amount also being found in the skeletal muscle. So MB form of creatinine kinase, that is CKMB, is sensitive but not specific for the myocardial infarction. So following myocardial infarction, the CKMB began to rise within 2 to 4 hours, peak at 24 hours, and return to normal within approximately 72 hours. Other diagnostic tools are the ECG findings. So there is a Q-wave, ST segment elevations, and others. Echocardiograph or echo, radioisotope study, and magnetic resonance imaging. So this is the ECG findings in the left side. This is the normal ECG finding in the right side. So if there is a myocardial infarction, so there is a elevation of ST segment, inversion of T wave, and increased amplitude of Q wave. So this is the three important things that are found in the myocardial infarction in the ECG changes. So there is elevation of ST segment, inversion of T wave, and prominent Q waves. Now the pathological complication of myocardial infarction. The pathological complication, the half of the death associated with acute myocardial infarction occur within 1 hour of onset. Most of these individuals never reach the hospital. So usually death occur within 1 hour of the onset. Complications occur in 75% of the patient with myocardial infarction. Poor prognosis occur in if the patient are elderly, or the female patient having history of diabetes mellitus, or the old case of or the previous history of the myocardial infarction. Usually, the infarction in the anterior and posterior wall of the ventricle have the worst prognosis, and if the infarction in the inferior wall have the best prognosis. Now, the acute effect of myocardial infarction. The acute effects are the contractile dysfunction, maybe the systolic or diastolic dysfunction, arrhythmia, that is the irregular heartbeat, cardiac rupture, pericarditis, sudden cardiac death, right ventricular infarction, infarct, extension, expansion, formation of mural thrombus, ventricular aneurysm, myocardial rupture. रप्चर में भी द वेंट्रिकुलर फ्री वॉल का हो सकता है, वेंट्रिकुलर सेप्टम एंड द रप्चर ऑफ द कैपिलरी मसल्स. नाउ कम टू वन बाय वन. सो फर्स्ट इज द contractile dysfunction. So usually there is a left ventricular dysfunction. So left ventricular failure, mild degree with hypotension, pulmonary congestion, interstitial pulmonary transudate, pulmonary edema, and respiratory impairment. And there may be the development of cardiogenic shock or the pump failure if the more than 40% of the left ventricular wall infarction occurs, lead to death in 70 to 90% of the patient of the hospitalized MI. So this is the flow chart, how the cardiac dysfunctions occur or the myocardial dysfunction occur. So suppose there is a myocardial infarction, so myocardial dysfunction, systolic and diastolic dysfunction. So in the systolic dysfunction, due to systolic dysfunction, so there is a decreased cardiac output, decreased stroke volume, may lead to the hypotension, decreased coronary perfusion pressure, and finally there is a ischemia. And if there is a diastolic dysfunction, so there is a increase in left ventricular in diastolic pressure, pulmonary congestion, hypoxemia, and finally lead to the ischemia. So ischemia may lead to the progressive myocardial dysfunction or maybe the death of the patient. So systolic dysfunction, if there is a decreased cardiac output, decreased stroke volume, may lead to the decreased systemic perfusion, and there is a compensatory vasoconstriction, and finally lead to the progressive myocardial dysfunction and death of the patient. Now come to the arrhythmia. So arrhythmia means irregular beating of the heart or the asystole. So one is the sinus bradycardia or the heart block or the asystole, maybe the tachycardia, ventricular premature contraction of the heartbeat, and the ventricular fibrillation. So these are the different forms of the arrhythmia. Now the ventricular fibrillation is the most common arrhythmia in the myocardial infarction that may lead to the sudden death in myocardial infarction patient before they reach to the hospital. Now come to the myocardial rupture. So myocardial rupture results from the softening and weakening of the necrotic and inflamed myocardium. So rupture of the ventricular free wall is the most common with hemopericardium and cardiac tamponade. So hemocardium means there is a deposition of the blood in the between the parietal and the two layers of the pericardium, and in cardiac tamponade there is a fluid deposition. So ventricular rupture is the later cause of the false aneurysm. Age, if the patient age is more than 60 years, female gender, have the pre-existing hypertension. The most common site for myocardial rupture is the free or the anterior lateral wall at the mid-ventricular level. The most frequent during the 3 to 7 days after the myocardial infarction due to the weakened myocardium. Second is the rupture of the ventricular septum. Is the less common, leading to the acute VSD, ventricular septal defect, and left to right side. Third is the papillary muscles rupture, least common, leading to the myocardial mitral regurgitation. So here we see in the diagram, this is the gross finding. So there is an anterior myocardial rupture in the acute infarct. So here in the diagram, show the complete rupture of the necrotic papillary muscles. So this is the rupture of the papillary muscles. Now the pericarditis. So pericarditis a fibrinous और fibrinohemorrhagic pericarditis जिसको हम लोग ड्रेसलर सिंड्रोम भी बोलते हैं. So that may happen 2 to 3 days following the transmural infarct. Now the right ventricular infarction. Isolated infarction of the right ventricular is unusual, often accompanies the ischemic injury of the adjacent posterior left ventricle and ventricular septum. So this is the pericarditis. So fibrinohemorrhagic pericarditis. Now tension. So new necrosis may occur adjacent to the existing infarct expansion. So there is a stretching, thinning and dilation of the infarct region as a result of weakening of the necrotic muscle. So infarct extension or infarct expansion may occur. Mural thrombosis, if there is a contractile defect, so there is a stasis or there is a endocardial damage lead to the thromboembolism. So diagram that show the infarct extension, how the infarct extended at the 0 hours, 2 hours and after the 24 hours. So in the 0 hours there is a zone of perfusion, area athletics, obstructed coronary artery, and in the after 2 hours of the myocardial infarction, so extension of the zone of necrosis, and after 24 hours there is a zones of necrosis. Now the ventricular aneurysm. Ventricular aneurysm is the late complication of the large transmural infarct. The true aneurysm rupture is very rare. There is bulging during systole leading to the mural thrombus, arrhythmia and heart failure. Papillary muscles dysfunction. So rupture of the papillary muscles result of ischemia or the fibrosis of the muscles may lead to the post-infarct mitral regurgitation. So here in the diagram show the ventricular wall aneurysm. Now come to the chronic ischemic heart disease. So chronic ischemic, so there is a 4 types of the ischemic heart disease. One is the myocardial infarction, angina pectoris, and other is the chronic ischemic heart disease and sudden cardiac death. So now come to the chronic ischemic heart disease. So in the chronic ischemic heart disease, there is progressive late heart failure as a consequence of ischemic myocardial damage. There is ischemic cardiomyopathy. So chronic ISD usually appears post-infarction due to the functional decompensation of the hypertrophied non-infarcted myocardium or the previous coronary intervention or the bypass surgery. In the morphology, the hearts are enlarged and heavy due to the left ventricle dilation and hypertrophy of the left ventricle. There may be the discrete scar development, patchy fibrous thickening and mural thrombus of the endocardium. In microscopy, there is a hypertrophy of the myocytes or the myocardial muscles, diffuse subendocardial vacuolization and fibrosis development. So here you see in the diagram, so this is a gross picture of the old myocardial infarction showing the evidence of thinning of the ventricular wall replaced by the fibrous scar. So in the diagram, the all pale area that show the fibrosis. So this diagram shows the fibrous scarring with compensatory hypertrophy of the unaffected ventricular wall. So these are the affected area that show the necrosis, and there is a compensatory hypertrophy of the ventricular wall. That is now the reperfusion injury. The target. So what are the target of reperfusion? The target of reperfusion is the clot lysis and restoration of the blood flow in the infracted area or in the necrosed area after myocardial ischemic injury. Mechanism may be the intrinsic and extrinsic. In the extrinsic, so there may be the use of thrombolytic drugs. If you are given the thrombolytic drugs, the reperfusion starts within 1 hour after one set of myocardial infarction, or either given the PTCA and the CABG. So what do you mean by PTCA? So PTCA means percutaneous transluminal coronary angioplasty, and CABG is the coronary artery bypass graft. So if give the patient PTCA or done the CABG, so after 1 hour of myocardial infarction, the reperfusion may start. The possible effect of re-establishing blood flow. The possible effect of re-establishing blood flow may lead to the prevention of all necrosis, salvage of irreversibly injured cells, accentuation of the damage to the irreversibly injured cells, and new cellular damage. Later, to constitute the reperfusion injury, accentuated or new damage due to the re-establishing blood flow. Many effects of ischemic injury only seen when perfusion re-established. Now what are the changes after the reperfusion? So that is the post reperfusion changes. So there is a development of the contraction band. So there is a hypercontracting myocytes, stunted myocardium. So maybe transient and protective dysfunction, reperfusion damage, mostly the apoptosis by the free radicals. Characterized histologically by the marked hemorrhage and marked contraction band necrosis. So the area that are reperfused histologically or in the microscopy, you see there is a marked hemorrhage and marked contraction band necrosis. So the consequences of myocardial infarction followed by the reperfusion. See here you see there is a ischemia. So in the center of the diagram, a region of the perfusion defect or the area at the risk due to the acute coronary artery occlusion. So if the reperfusion start within 20 minutes, so most of the myocytes are the salvage. If the reperfusion start between 2 to 4 hours, there is a partial salvage of the nephrotic part or the infected area. If the permanent occlusion occurs, so there is a completed infarct. So in the diagram, so the color that is the normal ischemic, viable with a post ischemic dysfunction, necrotic with hemorrhagic and contraction band, and necrotic area. So these are the different consequences of myocardial infarction followed by the reperfusion. Now the gross appearance of the reperfusion. So here you see the hemorrhagic or reddened area is the reperfused area, and the pale area these are the infected area. So there is a development of the contraction band, intensely eosinophilic intracellular stripes composed of closely packed sarcomere. So these are the microscopic appearance of the reperfusion uh, uh, occurs in the infected area. Now come to the sudden cardiac death. So how the sudden death occur? So 3 to 4 lakhs death in US per year are caused by what is referred to as the sudden cardiac death. Sudden cardiac death is also known as the massive heart attack, in which the heart converts from sinus rhythm to ventricular fibrillation. Sudden cardiac death is an unexpected death due to the cardiac causes occurring in a short time period, usually within 1 hour of the symptom onset in a person with known or unknown cardiac diseases. Most cases of SCD are related to the cardiac arrhythmia. Patient, usually young athletics with pulmonary hypertension or the previous history of the ischemic heart disease. The most important cause of the sudden cardiac death is atherosclerosis or the formation of atherosclerotic plaque in 90% of the cases. In 10% of the cases, due to the vasculitis or the vasospasm of the vessels. So one syndrome, that is a Romando-Ward syndrome. In the Romando-Ward syndrome, there is a long QT or the long QT syndrome or the long QT intervals. So there is a here there is a sodium potassium channel defect. So in this condition, there is a sudden cardiac death occurred due to the atherosclerosis. The mechanism of sudden cardiac death most likely due to the fatal arrhythmia. Arrhythmia may be the asystole ventricular fibrillation result from the acute ischemia induced electrical instability of the myocardium. In ventricular fibrillation, the heart is unable to contract fully, resulting in lack of blood being pumped to the vital organs. So the ventricular fibrillation requires shock from the defibrillator, that is known as the shockable rhythm. So defibrillation to be done in the ventricular fibrillation. So the most important arrhythmia that may lead to the sudden cardiac death is the ventricular fibrillation. Now the non-atherosclerotic condition that may lead to the SCD or the sudden cardiac death. So the most important is the congenital structural and coronary arterial abnormalities. There may be the aortic valve stenosis, mitral valve stenosis, myocarditis, dilated or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, pulmonary hypertension, hereditary or acquired cardiac arrhythmia, cardiac hypertrophy of any cause, and others like systemic metabolic and hemodynamic alternation, catecholamine, drugs of abuse like cocaine and methamphetamine. The most SCD is not associated with acute MI. Most of these deaths are thought to be result from myocardial ischemia induced irritability that initiates malignant ventricular arrhythmia. Morphological findings: there is a prominent finding is increased heart mass and vacuolization occurs in subendocardial myocardium. So in the diagram, so that show the coronary artery disease. So there is a myocardial infarction, acute plaque changes. So there is a myocardial infarction with the loss of. In the diagram you see the flow chart of the sudden cardiac death. So there is a coronary artery disease that may lead to the myocardial ischemia or the acute plaque changes or the coronary artery thrombosis. The acute plaque changes or the coronary artery thrombosis may lead to the myocardial ischemia of the increased severity and duration that may lead to the myocardial infarction with muscles loss and the arrhythmia that may lead to the infarct healing or the ventricular remodeling or the hypertrophy or dilation of the viable muscles. So myocardial ischemia and myocardial infarction finally may lead to the chronic ischemic heart disease. Finally may lead to the congestive heart failure, and sudden cardiac death. So this is the flow chart how the coronary artery disease may lead to the chronic ischemic heart disease or the congestive heart failure, and finally the sudden cardiac death. Many people are able to manage coronary artery disease with lifestyle changes and medication. Other people with severe coronary artery disease may need angioplasty or the surgery. So the drugs given for the ischemic heart disease, usually beta blockers, act either selectively or non-selectively on the beta receptors, beta 1 and beta 2. Beta 1 act on cardiac muscles and beta 2 dilates bronchial and smooth muscle, and both lead to the increased rate and contraction of the calcium channel blockers, act on vasculature, blocking calcium and causing vasodilation. Nitrite may lead to the vasculature vasodilation. Some anti-hypercholesterolemic drugs like HMG-CoA reduced directed inhibitor that reduce in the man-made cholesterol, thus helping to reduce atheroma formation. Some antiplatelet medication like clopidogrel and aspirin. Treatment may be the stenting, angioplasty, balloon angioplasty, and the bypass surgery. So these are the different kind of the surgical treatment. So there is in the diagram there is a coronary artery blockage. So narrowing of the artery given the rotational bar or the angioplasty, balloon angioplasty. So lifestyle changes may be the change in the diet, exercise, preventive treatment, low fat, low cholesterol diet, cessation of smoking, and red wine. Red wine may prevent the myocardial infarction. Thank you. So these are all about the ischemic heart disease. In the heading of the myocardial infarction, angina pectoris, chronic ischemic heart disease, and the sudden cardiac death. In the next class, you teach about the rheumatic heart disease.